Some wishes feel harmless until you grant them. At first, it was just a conversation. Just words floating between two people in a quiet kitchen at midnight. But I've learned something the hard way. Not all words are innocent. Some are loaded. Some come wrapped in loneliness. And some? They come with consequences you never see coming until you're already too deep. He looked at me with those same eyes I'd seen for years. Eyes that used to ask for bedtime stories, for one more cookie, for a ride to the park. But that night, those eyes didn't ask like a boy anymore. They asked like a man. And I didn't know what to do with that. I should have said no. I should have laughed it off. I should have reminded him that I'm me. And he's God. But I didn't. And I wish I could tell you it was complicated. That I wrestled with it, fought it, ran from it. But the truth? When he asked me, I didn't hesitate. And that's the part that haunts me the most. It's been 14 months. 14 long, silent, aching months. I still hear his voice sometimes. In the shower. In the quiet right before I fall asleep. In the way I hold my coffee cup like he used to when he stayed up late studying in the living room. It's like he never really left. But he did, and so did I, in a way. People always think infidelity starts with a kiss. Or a lie. Or a moment of weakness. But sometimes, it starts with something way smaller. A wish. A look. A silence that stretches too long. I'm not proud of this story, but it's mine, and I need to tell it before it eats me alive. So, if you're still listening, just know, this isn't about lust, or scandal, or some forbidden fantasy. This is about loneliness, about needing to be seen, about how one quiet moment can split your life in two. Subscribe now to Heartfelt Tales Unfold, because sometimes silence turns into stories too heavy to carry alone. And this one might be heavier than most. I'm 37. Divorced for just over a year. It wasn't a loud ending. No screaming, no slamming doors. It just faded, like color draining from a photo. One day we stopped laughing. Then we stopped touching. Then one morning, I realized I'd gone invisible in my own marriage. And he didn't even notice I'd disappeared. I stayed in the house. Same creaky floors, same chipped coffee mugs. But everything felt hollow. My son, Jordan, he's 16. He's at boarding school now, his choice, mostly. Said he needed space. And I didn't fight him. Maybe part of me was relieved. I didn't know how to be a whole person around him anymore. Didn't know how to be a mother when I barely knew how to be anything at all. Then came Elijah, my nephew. He's my sister's son. She and I haven't spoken much since the funeral, our mother's funeral. We grieved differently. She wanted to move on. I needed to sit in the ache a little longer. She got sick earlier this year. Real sick. Doctors in her country couldn't help, so she flew overseas for treatment. And she asked me to watch over her son. Just for a few months, she said. Just until things stabilized. I hadn't seen Elijah in over 2 years. He used to come every summer when he was little. Used to run barefoot through the house, track dirt across my floors, stay up way too late asking questions about the stars. He was bright, sensitive, and stubborn in the way boys are when they want to be men too fast. When he showed up at my door this time, he was taller, his voice deeper, but the way he smiled, that part hadn't changed. That little tilt of the mouth that said, I remember you. I trust you. I let him in. I didn't even hesitate. The first few days were quiet. He unpacked slow, always had music playing. Jazz one night, old school R&B the next. He moved like someone who didn't want to take up space, but still somehow filled every corner. And the house, it shifted. He started cooking. Late at night mostly. I'd hear pots clinking softly at 1 a.m., and the smell of garlic or cinnamon would slip under my bedroom door. He left his sneakers by the front door like he owned the place. Used the good mugs without asking. Hummed to himself in the shower. It should have annoyed me, And it did. At least, that's what I told myself. But the truth? It made the house feel alive again. It made me feel alive again. He'd sit on the kitchen counter while I made tea, asking questions no one had asked me in years. What were you like in college? Did you always want to be a mom? Do you ever wish you'd done something else? Sometimes I answered. Sometimes I lied. Sometimes I didn't know the answers at all. But I liked that he asked. He had this way of listening. Not just with his ears, but with his whole face. Like every word I said mattered. And after months, no, years of being unseen, unheard, untouched, that attention felt like sunlight on skin that hadn't felt warmth in too long. He wasn't a child anymore. And I was no longer sure what I was either. I told myself I was just being kind, just being the aunt, just being human. But something was already shifting. And I felt it before I understood it. The space between us was starting to hum. It was a Thursday night. I remember because the house was still. No TV. No traffic outside. Just that kind of quiet that feels expectant. I couldn't sleep, so I wandered into the kitchen. He was already there, shirt off, barefoot, rummaging through the fridge like he lived there. I teased him about finishing the last slice of lasagna. He poured 2 glasses of wine like it was routine. And I didn't stop him. We sat at the table. Just the two of us. A flickering candle he lit for no reason. Leftovers between us. And something in the air I couldn't name yet. He asked me if I missed being married. I shrugged. Told him the truth. I missed being seen. And then I laughed, like I always do when I get too honest. But he didn't laugh back. He said, "You always made me feel seen." His voice was so soft, I almost missed it. He looked at me like he was remembering something, some version of me from summers past that I had forgotten how to be. He said, "I always liked it better here. With you. It felt safe. I mattered more here than anywhere else." And I don't know what came over me. But I looked at him differently in that moment. Not like the little boy I used to read to, but like someone who had grown into something familiar and dangerous. I tried to change the subject. Asked when his birthday was again. He smiled and said it didn't matter. Said he never really celebrated them anyway. I raised my glass and told him to make a wish anyway. Why not? It was past midnight. Wine in our blood. The kind of night that makes the world feel a little softer at the edges. He grinned and said, "I've made lots of wishes, but there's still one I've never told anyone." I laughed. Honestly, I thought it was something silly. I want to meet Rihanna kind of wish. Or maybe something nostalgic, like riding a motorcycle or skydiving. But when he said it, when the words came out, I didn't laugh anymore. The air shifted. Heavy. Charged. Like something sacred had been broken open. I can't even repeat the words. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I'll tell you this, he said it. And I froze. Not because it was shocking. Not because I was offended. But because some part of me, the part that hadn't been touched, seen, or wanted in so long, had wanted to hear it. And that scared me more than anything else. After that night, I couldn't sleep. Not really. I'd close my eyes and the words would play again. Over and over. That one sentence. That wish. And the way he looked at me while saying it. Like I already knew. Like some part of me had always known. I'd lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, asking myself what it meant. Was he serious? Was it a joke that landed wrong? Was I reading too much into it? But deep down, I wasn't confused about him. I was confused about me. Because the truth is, it didn't disgust me. It didn't scare me. It woke something up. Something I hadn't felt in years. And that's what terrified me most. I kept remembering little things. From when he was a kid. The way he used to run up and wrap his arms around me without asking. How he'd fall asleep in my lap during movies. How he always lingered at the front door before leaving, like he didn't really want to go. Back then, it was sweet. innocent, safe. Now I didn't know what to call it. And yet, when he brushed past me in the hallway, when our hands touched accidentally, when he smiled across the dinner table without saying a word, something inside me responded. I hated myself for it. But I didn't stop it. I craved it. Not him, not exactly. But the attention. The feeling. The weight of being seen again. You see, my ex-husband. He stopped touching me 3 years before he left. No kisses. No glances. No fingertips down my back when I washed the dishes. I became something he moved around. Like furniture. I used to count the days between touches. Then I stopped counting altogether. And eventually I stopped needing it. Or at least, I thought I did. But when Elijah looked at me that night, really looked at me, every part of me that had been silent, stirred. It wasn't just about him. It was about me. About the hollow space I'd been carrying around inside for so long. And how one sentence, from the wrong lips, made me feel wanted. Not needed. Not useful. Wanted. And once you feel that again, after so long without it, you can't unfeel it. I tried to shake it off. Tried to convince myself it was just a weird moment. A late-night haze. A young man being reckless with his words. But I couldn't let it go. Every time I saw him after that, something shifted. I noticed his shoulders. The way his voice dropped at night. How he'd glance at me when he thought I wasn't looking. And how I didn't look away. I hated that I liked it. And I liked it even more because I hated it. The guilt came in waves. But the loneliness never left. And somewhere between shame and silence, I began to wonder, was I falling? Or had I already fallen? And if I had, how far was I willing to go before I admitted it out loud? We started spending more time together. It wasn't planned. It just happened. He'd linger after dinner. Help me clean the kitchen. Ask if I wanted to watch something. And I'd always say yes. At first, it felt normal. Comfortable even. Aunt and nephew. Familiar faces. Easy company. But things change when you start waiting for them. I'd find myself dressing a little differently in the evenings. Putting on lip balm before coming downstairs. Fixing my hair. Not much, just enough. Enough to feel seen. We watched old movies. Shared inside jokes about terrible acting and ridiculous plot lines. We laughed more in those nights than I had in years. And every now and then, his shoulder would brush mine. He'd lean in too close. Or I'd feel his breath on my neck when he whispered something during a quiet scene. Nothing happened. But everything did. He asked me things no one else asked anymore. Real questions. What's something you regret? Do you think you'll ever love someone again? Do you ever feel like you disappeared into the role you were given? Questions that pulled me apart in ways I wasn't ready for. And the way he listened, really listened, it made the answers feel safer coming out of me. There was one night I still remember too clearly. It had been raining for hours. That soft, steady kind of rain that wraps the whole house in silence. We were watching a movie. Something romantic, slow-paced, full of pauses and looks that lasted a beat too long. He pulled the blanket across both our laps without asking. And when our hands met beneath it, he didn't move. Neither did I. His fingers brushed mine. Lightly at first. Then again, with a kind of quiet certainty. I should have pulled away. I should have stood up. Said something, anything, to break the moment. But I didn't. I told myself all the lies that keep people in trouble. He's not a child. He knows what he's doing. He understands me in a way no one else does. I didn't start this. But the truth? I didn't stop it either. Every night, I told myself it was innocent. That we were just two lonely people finding comfort in each other's company. And every morning, I knew I was lying. Something had shifted between us. Something neither of us named, but both of us felt. It lived in the silence between our words. In the space between our bodies on the couch. In the way his eyes lingered just a second too long before looking away. We were dancing around something. Something dangerous. And I think we both knew it. But once you start feeling alive again, even the wrong things can start to feel right. And then one night, as I reached to turn off the TV, he leaned in close, so close I could feel his breath against my cheek, and he whispered the wish again. Only this time, I didn't say no. It was a Sunday night. The kind of quiet that sinks deep into the walls. I had lit candles without thinking, just wanted something warm, something soft to fight the cold that never seemed to leave the house anymore. There was music playing, something low and slow, the kind of sound that barely holds itself together. He came down from his room without saying a word. T-shirt, sweatpants, barefoot. His eyes didn't hold a smile this time, just something still, something waiting. He stood in the doorway for a while, watching me, and I should have asked him to leave. I should have said it was late, that I was tired, that this had gone far enough. But I didn't. I looked up at him. And, for the first time, I didn't look away. He sat across from me on the floor, crossed his legs, rested his arms on his knees. The candlelight danced between us, flickering like it knew what was about to happen before we did. He didn't touch me. Not yet. He just said, "I know you feel it too." I didn't answer. He leaned in, voice barely above a whisper, just once. Make my wish come true. And that was it. No grand seduction. No sudden moves. Just a question. A wish. And silence waiting to be broken. He reached for me slowly, fingertips brushing my wrist, eyes searching mine, asking one last time without using words. And I let him. I let him in. Not with force. Not with confusion. But with the ache of someone who's been empty for too long. The moment wasn't messy. It wasn't wild. It was quiet, careful, like we both knew we were stepping into something we couldn't come back from. Every movement was deliberate, every breath shared. I thought I'd feel guilt crashing over me. I thought I'd want to pull away, scream, run. But I didn't. I wanted to stop. I didn't, because for the first time in years, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't the forgotten woman in the hallway. I wasn't the ex-wife everyone pitied. I wasn't the mother who no one called. I was wanted. And in that moment, I chose that feeling over everything else. When it was over, we sat there in silence. The room still warm with candlelight. The air so still, it felt like even the walls were holding their breath. He stood up first, pulled on his shirt, didn't look at me right away. And when he finally did, he looked at me. But not like before. Not like I hoped. The next morning, the house felt different. Quieter. Colder. Like it knew what had happened, and it was holding its breath too. I came downstairs like always. Made tea. Opened the curtains. Waited to hear his footsteps above me. Waited for him to call out. Waited for the sound of the shower. But nothing came. When he did finally appear, he didn't meet my eyes. Didn't say good morning. Didn't touch the cup of coffee I'd poured for him. He walked right past me, grabbed his keys, said something about needing air, and left. Just like that. No trace of the night before. No whisper of what we'd done. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, holding 2 mugs, one for him, one for me, and for the first time, I didn't know which one was mine anymore. He started going out more after that. Late nights. Phone always face down on the table. He stopped eating with me. Stopped sitting near me on the couch. Stopped asking those questions he used to ask, the ones that pulled pieces of me out I didn't even know were still alive. And I tried to act normal. Tried to fill the silence with laundry, errands, small talk about nothing. But everything felt wrong now. The house, the air, even the way the light came in through the windows, it all felt different. Too bright. Too honest. I caught him packing one night. Didn't say a word, just quietly folding his clothes into the same bag he brought with him. He didn't even look surprised to see me standing there. I asked him where he was going. He just said, "I think I've stayed too long." I wanted to ask him why. I wanted to tell him to stay, to talk, to explain, to blame me if that would make it easier. But I didn't say anything, because deep down, I already knew. He left early the next morning, didn't knock on my door, didn't leave the house with the same footsteps he used to. The ones that made the floorboards creak like they were saying goodbye every time he left the room. I found the note on the kitchen table. 2 lines. Thank you for making it real. I'll never ask again. And that was it. No signature. No explanation. Just an ending I had to read twice to believe. After he left, I unraveled. Not all at once. Not in some dramatic way. It was quieter than that. Slower, like water wearing down stone. I stopped playing music in the house. Stopped lighting candles. Stopped cooking anything that took more than 10 minutes. Some days I barely spoke at all. Just moved from one room to another, touching things he'd touched, opening drawers he used, sitting in chairs still shaped like him. I kept washing that same wine glass, over and over, even though no one was drinking from it anymore. I told myself it was habit, but I think I was waiting for him to walk back in and make the silence make sense. He never did. No one knows. Not my sister. Not my son. Not the friends I don't return calls from anymore. It's a secret I carry alone, tucked beneath my skin, settled in my chest like a second heartbeat I wish I could cut out. Sometimes I wonder if I broke him. If I gave him something he didn't know how to carry. If I asked him to hold the ache of a woman who hadn't been touched in years and made him feel like it was his job to fix me. Or maybe I just broke myself. Maybe I was already broken before he even walked through the door. I think about that night often. Not the parts you'd expect, not the touch, not the warmth, not the breath against my collarbone. But the silence after. The stillness. The moment I realized he wasn't looking at me with longing anymore. Just sadness. And now, every time I pass a mirror, I look for that same sadness in myself. Was it love? Or was it just a cry? From 2 broken people echoing through the same empty house, trying to find something to hold on to before the darkness swallowed them whole? I'll never really know. All I know is, it felt real when it happened. And now everything else feels less than. Have you ever given into something? Not because it was right, not because you truly wanted it, but because you were just tired of feeling nothing? Have you ever reached out in the dark, not looking for love? Just for someone who could see you, touch you, remind you that you're still here? I wonder sometimes, was I wrong for saying yes to a wish that felt so small in the moment, so harmless, yet somehow managed to cost me everything I thought I still had? I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you've been there. Maybe not in the same way, but in that quiet, aching place where need drowns out reason. Tell me, if you've ever chosen something just because it filled the silence. Just because it held the weight for a little while. I want to know. Share your story. Your truth. Your regret. Your ache. I read every single one. No judgment here, only honesty. Only connection. Only the echo of stories we're too afraid to say out loud. If this story found you, if something in it felt familiar, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold, where silence turns into stories that don't flinch, don't hide, don't pretend. And tap the bell, because the next tale might sound a little too much like your own. Some betrayals don't wear lust. They don't come wrapped in scandal. They don't shout. They wear longing. They wear loneliness. They were birthdays forgotten by everyone except the one person who should never have remembered. They wear the silence of an unanswered thank you. The kind that lingers. The kind that means more than it should. And sometimes, the greatest pain isn't what you lost. It's what you gave. Freely. Desperately. Tenderly. To someone who didn't know what to do with it. Or worse, didn't want it once it was theirs. He had a wish. And I granted it. But now, I'm the one left wishing I could forget the sound of his voice that night. Wishing I'd said no. Wishing I could go back to being invisible, just so I wouldn't feel this scene, and this alone. But there's no one doing it. No rewinding. Only the quiet echo of what we became. And the haunting question of what might have happened if I'd simply stood up and walked away. That's the story. And now it's yours, too.